welcome to Lexi's Healthy Dynamic Life. I'm Lexi, and on this episode of the podcast, I have the pleasure of interviewing Grant Campbell, also known as Raw Aussie Athlete on Instagram. He is multifaceted, amazing human being. He's an IT professional, a world traveler, an ultra marathon runner. He runs retreats and is an amazing leader in the raw vegan movement. Grant, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed on this podcast.
Thanks so much. It's my pleasure to be here, Lexi. Yeah, let's do it.
And you're in Thailand right now.
I am. I'm very fortunate to be seeing out the pandemic from a beautiful place. So yeah.
And so Grant, can you just tell us a little bit about your story coming to become a raw vegan and why you still are one?
My story, growing up, I had problems like asthma. Sometimes I didn't know where I'd get my next breath. So that was kind of scary growing up. And I noticed that, when I got fitter and healthier, that improved. But it never went away until I went raw vegan, basically. So even as a cooked vegan for 6.5 years, I still had occasional asthma. It improved a lot, and it improved a lot through my ultra marathon running. But none of those things ever got rid of it, other than combined with raw veganism, just eating. And I just think it's our natural diet. I think it nourishes us best and makes us feel our best and has the least imprint on the planet, less packaging and less, just everything about the lifestyle works for us and works for the rest of the environment and all, any other reason why you make choices in life. So it's a big synergy of deliciousness, and no one's given me a good reason to stop doing it, so I keep doing it. So I've been raw vegan now for almost 15 years.
That's a long time. And you mentioned that you were eating cooked vegan food for 6.5 years. What led you to choose a raw vegan diet versus cooked food? I know you were feeling better, but was there a book or someone told you about it, or did you just come to it on your own? How did you make that choice?
Yeah, I wish I was that smart. No, I came across information. A friend who I had influenced into becoming vegan, she got me back because she lent me Doug Graham's Perfect Health program at the time, which the 80-10-10, his 80-10-10 diet book hadn't been released yet in 2005 when I went raw vegan. And so, yeah, my friend loaned me the Perfect Health program, which is a 12-hour audio program that just talks about the whole of lifestyle, how much fruit is good and why you don't need supplements and stimulants and irritants and all this. And just covered all social issues and just all the different challenges and things, associated, because it's a lot to change in your life, and people don't typically realize what they're getting themselves in for when they start out. But it's a pleasant journey and a very interesting journey, and it's just a journey away from ignorance, I guess.
I like how you put it that way. And when you listen to the Perfect Health program, did you go raw overnight? Was there like something awakened in you, or did you transition? What was that like?
Yeah, I was very enthusiastic. I kind of felt like, wow, why did this seem so obvious? Everything makes so much sense. Why didn't I think of this myself? Like, eat health foods to the exclusion of everything else. Like, why did I not think? Why did health foods have to be just a snack? It didn't make sense. So, and it's just because I didn't know anybody that that was raw vegan. So it was kind of a leap of faith, just following some information that I'd come across. But it was such such strong and compelling arguments being made that that all reinforced each other. That by the time I'd listened to that program, I didn't need to ask any questions. I was definitely 100% in and gave it a go. And I gave it an experiment for a week. I went away from home on a family holiday, and in a kind of remote place where I knew I wouldn't be able to buy my usual cooked vegan foods. So I was going to go hungry unless I took food that I was going to be able to eat, and I only took fruit and vegetables with me, and that and I didn't have any way of kind of cooking food there and stuff. So so that's what I ate, and I loved it. And I was reading another book by David Klein called Your Natural Diet, based on the work of T.C. Fry. Just kind of some natural hygiene information that reinforced all the information that I'd already read in Doug's or listened to and in Doug's Perfect Health program. And yeah, on that family trip, I just had the best time. I had so much energy. I felt alive and awake and amazing. And I was never hungry or never felt lacking. I didn't have any, I was totally satisfied by all my meals. And my just everything was working perfectly. So I extended the experiment to, I think it was ended up being 2 months where I kept calling it like an experiment. And yeah, but then I did an interesting thing, and I went back and I finished off all my, once I decided this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, then I still had this issue in my head about not wasting things. And so I finished off, I agreed, I made a decision to finish off all of my cooked vegan products, all the organic spelt flour, and I used to make cooked vegan bread every single day, like chocolate bread and pumpkin bread and all this every day a different flavor. And I don't think that was very healthy though. That was when my hair went grey back then, so I don't know if that was related, but I was eating like a loaf of bread every day that I was making myself. But yeah, so I finished off those things and didn't replace them, and that was how I then stayed raw vegan afterwards, by following that. But that was just because I had this neurotic kind of programming that I hadn't overcome yet, about not wasting things and feeling responsible for it, and not knowing what to do with these products that I didn't just want to throw out, and I didn't want to give them to anybody else, so I just ate them. So I still had some issues, that took probably about 7 years. The first 7 years probably of being raw vegan. In addition to the time that I'd been cooked vegan, there was about a 7-year raw vegan, call it a transition period or whatever, until I was completely 100% stable in it, and that's been the last eight years now, where I just have had no, hints of desires of deviation from it. But back then I had, when I'd have like emotional kind of things with just relationship issues, or and also my career with IBM. I worked for IBM for 15 years, and that kind of became quite unfulfilling in the last few years. So I was trying to get out of that, and that kind of left me a bit, lost and not knowing my direction and all that sort of thing. And I started using food as a coping mechanism for dealing with that, and not realizing really what I was doing. And I'd never used food like that before, so it's quite interesting. Like I found the more I challenged myself to grow, by improving my lifestyle. The more I was kind of looking at myself directly, and the more vulnerable and exposed I was, that's when I actually started developing more coping mechanisms, new coping mechanisms that I'd never used before. So it was a necessary path to go through that. But I definitely, it was definitely like self-harm, self-abuse, lack of self-love kind of aspects, all while I was like 90 whatever percent raw and 90% fit and healthy and doing all the right things. But there was just that element where I'd just go and binge on like fried vegan street food or something like that would really hurt my body, because I'd be going from super healthy clean food to trashy like refried oil kind of street food that was vegan, but big deal, it was like the most unhealthy vegan food you could possibly eat. But it was giving me that like stimulation, that hit and that fix, and it was dulling my senses, so I didn't so I wasn't able to think and feel as much, so I wasn't feeling the experience that I was supposed to be going through at that time in my life. Instead, I was avoiding it with this coping mechanism, but I didn't understand all of that at the time, and I didn't understand why I was just suddenly just drawn to eat things that hurt me, and it was like stepping back to my previous diet, but doing it in a really unhealthy way. And that's just the way it played out. I'd just be walking along the street, and then all of a sudden I'd just get an impulse and just go into Subway and buy like 2-foot-long veggie subs or something like that, and then just be like, whoa, like really, like great, because you can eat a lot more when you've stretched your stomach on the water-rich, fiber-rich, raw vegan diet, where everything's whole food and has all the fiber intact. You can eat a lot more volume of food. And so when you go back to more dense foods that have oil and things in it, then it can be quite dangerous. You can eat a lot of calories. You can put on a lot of weight really quickly. I've never been more than 80 kilograms, like 175 pounds, something like that. It's been my maximum weight, but I gained like about 20 pounds pretty quickly when I had those binges, because they would last sometimes for maybe a couple of weeks, like maybe just in the evenings I would do it, and then I'd go back the next morning back to trying to eat fruit again. But of course you can't eat watermelon for breakfast when you've still got the food from the meal of the night before in your gut, and you don't feel very good, and you need an extra 2 or 3 hours of sleep every night because of the food you're eating, because you're eating harmful food. So anyway, once I got through all those emotional kind of issues and understood why I was doing that, and I'd kind of already worked my way through it all. And that was largely because I was fortunate enough to keep putting myself in the environment where I could succeed. Environments like we know and love at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and the UK Fruit Festival, the Canada Vegan Festival, and all of Doug Graham's healthy lifestyle retreats, Culinary Skills Week, and Health and Fitness Week, and all this. And I did a water fast with Doug for 28 days, which was for 29 days, which was an exceptional experience. And that, all these things taught me a lot of stuff, and collectively, combined with ultra marathon running, I feel like I learned a lot about myself through that journey, where you're putting yourself into really vulnerable situations all the time, because you're just basically running your reserves down to nothing, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, and it's kind of like a survival situation. You could killed by wild animals or fall off a cliff or I don't know, get heat stroke or run out of water or run out of food, or any number of things can go wrong out there, and sometimes they do. Um, but I really loved that aspect of being like ultimately personally responsible, not being afraid of trying to do great things, um, but I definitely also have a real passion for just running long distances. I just love going out to one mountain and then running, you know, a big loop around a valley, or just up and over one mountain to the next mountain to the next mountain. And yeah, the next thing you know, it's like the next day and you're still running. it's it's pretty crazy, but I just love that. It gets me out in nature, and I love having excuses to get out in nature. It doesn't take much to convince me to go out into nature.
That's awesome. You touched on so much juicy goodness in that response. Thank you. And to be honest, if I heard your response, I might be a little scared of going raw vegan if I don't feel like I have the coping mechanisms set up to be vulnerable and to face difficult emotions. Do you have any words of wisdom as a 15-year raw vegan, what you might say to yourself back then or to someone new to this lifestyle? How can they set themselves up for success?
Yeah, I mean, I think a life where you don't grow is not really much of a life. So for me, I choose the opposite, which is like maximum growth, and 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 I feel like you get maximum benefits from that. Um, I think surrounding yourself with just like positive role models is one way to set yourself up for success, and that can just be even from just reading books, um, written a long time ago by maybe natural hygienists about health, and um, that can inspire. The bottom line is you need to be inspired to be bothered to make change and to be bothered to look after yourself. And it really comes down to self-care. Like how much do you love yourself? How well do you take care of yourself? Because what I see in society and what I used to do myself, like people don't take very good care of themselves. They go out drinking on the weekends, and they treat themselves with things that are toxic to their bodies, and um, like smoking and just like things. I can't like it's amazing to think that people still do things like that with with what we know today. Um, but they do, and so people have these coping mechanisms anyway, and they have more of them now than they will if they start working through it. So to me, the path that I went down, the raw vegan path, um, is an amazing way to get rid of as many of those issues that hold us back in life as possible, so we can just go through life, eventually get to a point where we're truly able to be our authentic self all the time, and not try to hide behind a mask, or not be afraid to to be yourself. Because I grew up very shy, and um, I would feel like knots in my stomach if I was to talk about anything confrontational, or there was constantly things that I didn't talk to people about that I should have talked to people about, because there was basically these days I think if there's something, some feeling, alive within me, it's there for a reason. So I should talk about it with whoever is associated with that, whether it's a romantic relationship or a family issue or a work colleague or whatever it is. If you've got some unsettled feeling inside you, that's enough. That's all it takes. Like then I'll talk about it. But in the past, I would see, like the way I was raised, I would see those sort of things as vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and I'd see them as negatives, and I would see them as something to hide. So, because if I would show that I was weak, then I wouldn't be able to, get a good job or whatever, succeed in life, or I wouldn't be respected by other people, or people would judge me if they found out that I left the toilet seat up or something. I don't know, whatever things. But it was a lot of self-imposed inhibitions. So things that were holding me back in life that I was propagating myself. For example, when my two sons were little, I was working at IBM still, and I would either be at work or at home, or I would feel guilty. So I wouldn't allow myself to go out after work with friends and go, indoor rock climbing or go to the cinema, or, not even like once a month or something. I just would always, and if I thought about anything like that, I would talk myself out of it and just have these like feelings of guilt. And I just felt like that was my responsibility as a parent, as a good parent, that I've got to be home with my family and look after my family. But the reality was that I was doing that to a degree where I was neglecting my own needs, and that wasn't sustainable. Because if you have unmet needs for a long time, then it kind of becomes a chronically unmet need, and you can start to do maybe neurotic kind of things. Well, maybe not be like I remember sometimes I would kind of get like angry and stuff like that with the kids about little little things, and it was just because I was like, I wasn't pursuing my balance of freedom between my commitment to family, and I didn't realize that, and I was just all about being everything for everybody else, and while I was doing that, and they're all good things, I was at the same time like sacrificing myself and holding myself back, and basically like harming myself by not meeting my own needs, and just kind of brushing off my own needs as not important. So like I wasn't important, kind of that sort of approach. But once I realized I was doing that to myself, then I could move forwards, and definitely like the raw vegan life, the ultra marathon running, the water fasting, educating myself, the countless experiences where I would be in communities like what we see at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, where everybody, like nobody is there unless they care about themselves a lot. They've made a lot of conscious choices to improve their life, not just for themselves, not in a selfish way, but in a way so that they can be more for everybody else as well, so they can be their best self. And it's a beautiful thing to be in an environment like that. And the more time you can spend in those sort of environments, the easier it makes things for yourself to make changes, because when we're surrounded by role models that are doing great things, it's natural for us to follow them. So, but unfortunately, in most of our society, we just see we see politicians as examples of leaders, obviously making terrible decisions all the time, and it's not that they're terrible. I'm not saying they're terrible people. They're cool people, but the decisions they're making, it's just crazy because of the systems they work in, the principles they work off of trying to attain status and power and money, and the value systems all like kind of turned on its head, rather than learning to pursue kind of your true values, which is like what's in your heart. How do you feel through the day? It doesn't matter how much money you have. It's like, how do you feel about what you're doing? Do you have integrity? Do you have health? And they're two things that I never ever want to compromise.
I love that. I'm going to write that down. Two things I never want to compromise: my integrity and my health. And that's just so true. And I hope many of us who are listening can resonate with some of the things you're sharing, because I certainly can. I'm like, yes, 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 that's me too. But it's just so cool to hear about how choosing raw, living, hydrating, vibrant foods can affect so many other aspects of our lives. It's not just, oh, I cleared my skin, I healed my asthma, I lost some weight. It's like everything gets better. It sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, it literally does. I'm not aware of any negatives at all. Some people may say like socially that's a negative, because you can't just go out and eat a meal with people at a restaurant the same way that you used to. But I can still go and eat a meal at a restaurant. I just have to be a bit, have a bit more preparation, or ask a few questions, or be a bit more savvy about it, or I can just sit down and enjoy drinking a glass of water with with friends, as long as I can assure them that I'm not missing out on anything, so that they can, and also that I'm not judging them for whatever they're doing, because they're probably not eating a raw vegan meal. But I can still sit down and enjoy a meal with them, as long as I can show that they're not being judged, and I'm not missing out on anything, and that I'm just there for their company, and I enjoy their company. And so that's end of story. That's what life's about.
Yeah, that's so great. And so I just really appreciate you sharing your story, Grant, and also some very helpful tips and wisdom nuggets, if you will. Um, and then would you share a little bit with us about your experience in Thailand with fruit, and just, I know when I talk about fruit, because I do it a lot, I really love fruit. Some people say, yeah, I don't know if I could live off fruit. And I just, even I don't even know how many fruits are out there. You were talking earlier about all these different kinds of fruits I'd never even heard of. Really amazing.
Yeah, it really is amazing here in Thailand. I'm in the province of Chantaburi, which is where I hold my retreats every May for a month, during peak durian season. Um, Here in Chantaburi, they grow a quarter of the world's durian, which is half of Thailand's durian, is all grown in this one province. But they grow so many other fruits as well, from chompadak, jackfruit, and there's probably at least a dozen different varieties of banana. One of which, at the moment I'm eating glue ngachang. Glue means banana. Ngachang means elephant tusk. So they're elephant tusk bananas, and they're literally from my elbow to my wrist in length. And I was also recently eating mangoes called muang yai, which is like, means like big mango, and they're the same, like the same length, and they're from my elbow to my wrist, and one of them weighed like over 1.5 kilograms, which is like, you know, kind of 3.2 pounds or something like that, 3.4 pounds. And it's and then you have fruits like durian that are not true to seed. So that if you plant one from seed, it grows a new variety every time. So with subtle, you know, with it's probably going to be quite similar to its parent fruit, but it'll have its own variations, which can be shape can change, flavor, flesh texture can change. Like so it can be like really important changes can happen just from a parent to a child, from a seed growing into another tree. For durians, and a lot of fruits work that way. Like apples, for example, are also not true to seed. That's why there's so many varieties of apple, and they only give the good ones names. But there's so many fruit trees like that that aren't true to seed, where people just grow them and they never name them, and it's just, you know, some amazing piece of fruit that people know, but they don't know why it's different to all the rest. And you know, we can graft those and make and repeat them. So they do that a lot here in Canterbury, grafting like the Montong durian that gets exported to the rest of the world. That's a very like big, luscious kind of durian flesh. So, and it's very sweet, and it's fairly kind of consistent in being like luscious portions and being sweet, so and creamy. So that's the one that they export the most. That's the one they grow the most here. But to be here during the season and getting the fruit dropped from the tree, and when you get it from old trees, the flavor is just so much deeper and so much more enjoyable. And the fragrances, the aromas are just that develop a quite remarkable in durian. And so that's a whole, you could spend a lifetime just exploring durians around Southeast Asia. And, you know, and people like Lindsay from Year of the Durian do that. And I've been to some of her tours, and they're impressive. Borneo, I went to in February on one of her tours, and that place is just absolutely world-class, incredible for the, you know, I've been raw vegan for 15 years, and like it blew my mind because it was so different to everywhere else I've been. There wasn't just rambutans there. I tried like 10 different types of rambutan, not just slightly different variations, but like the skin was different, and the shape was different, and the flavor was like quite different. And even mangosteen, there's different varieties of mangosteen that have like an extended, you know, with that little button thing is on the bottom where it has the petals, like a leaf structure that matches the number of pieces inside the fruit on a mangosteen. That like it's been stretched out, and there's like, you know, there's maybe about about, I don't know, 8 millimeters of protrusion, like a stretched out little nose, and then it's got that little thing on the bottom. So I was like, I've never seen a mangosteen like that before. And then they had like little red mangosteens that were a completely different experience. It's totally different flavor, a little bit sour, but quite pleasant. And we're just picking all these things from trees in a horticultural research park that that was in Tenom in Sabah on the island of Borneo. Just incredible, and just getting in nature and having old fruit trees dropping fruit is a beautiful thing. Because you know, these days we often get, because of shelf life and wanting to get things to market and shipping and traveling, like sending the food all around the world and across countries, they cut it, like most durians here, they cut 10 days early, and they just don't develop the same flavors. They can still be sweet and creamy, but they just don't have the remarkable, like, jaw-dropping experience that I get, during my retreat, where we basically only tree-dropped durian the whole time and every day, and it's just a remarkable experience that I'm so grateful to know about and be exposed to.
That sounds so amazing. And how can people find out more about your retreats?
Yeah, at rawausieathlete.com. All the information's there on the homepage. It's a huge Q&A set up there. I've been running the retreat for 10 years, so I've got all that sort of stuff sorted out pretty well. So I give people all the information they need to how to book their flights, how to travel there safely, and how to speak like a tiny amount of Thai that can help them to get there without any issues. But it's very easy and it's very safe, and it's just Chantaburi is, I call it enchanting Buri, because it's an enchanting place. They have so many waterfalls and beaches and fruit orchards, organic fruit orchards, and the national parks. And these are not just normal national parks; they're national parks with elephants and every animal you can think of. And huge dams, freshwater dams we go swimming in. So we swim every day, go to all these beautiful places, and just take big baskets of durians and mangosteens and all the other beautiful fruits with us. Mangoes, some incredible varieties of mangoes, the most aromatic mangoes that I've ever experienced, the Maharashtra mango. And Oaklong Mango is a local mango grown in a village about 10 miles from here, and it's very famous all across Thailand for its mangoes, and they're right here. There's a 300-year-old mango tree in that village. Yeah, crazy.
Awesome.
It doesn't taste good, but it's real. And it looks beautiful. It's such an amazing tree. It's just so ancient. It's so huge, and there's just all kinds of things living up in the top of the tree. Yeah. So it's just there's and with all the Buddhist culture, and we go to all the Thai massage, and we go visit temples, and there's herbal wood fire saunas that we go to in the villages, and we do like a river cruise down the Chantaburi River, which is like a historic cruise that from King Thaksin, who got 500 farmers and trained them to be soldiers and built warships, and they sailed around to the other side of Burma, Myanmar, now known as Myanmar, to win back the part of Thailand that they had stolen. The province of Ayutthaya back then was like the old Bangkok of Thailand. And when Burma took that part of Thailand, they just destroyed massive numbers of temples and really beautiful old artifacts and stuff. But yeah, King Thaksin from Chantaburi was famous for going and getting that land back. And so we go down that river and kind of visit a few historic places along the way, and it's a really cool experience too, just to see Chantaburi from a different perspective.
Sounds truly magical and amazing, and like a definite must on my to-do list. I have to come experience that.
And we have a daily discussion as well about something meaningful. It's just all about personal development. Depends who's there. If it's just all if it was all beginners, then it would be more about basic lifestyle kind of stuff. But more recently, most of the people that come tend to be quite experienced already with 80-10-10 and raw vegan eating and things like that. So and all the kind of whole lifestyle kind of stuff as well, because it's so easy to learn all that stuff now with YouTube and TikTok and whatever. We learn things in subtle ways these days. So we can focus on deeper issues these days. Usually at my retreats, we just dive straight into just talking about like where people are at in life and how life could be better and what they're going to do about it. just get straight down to it. And my retreats are like a maximum of 20 people, so it's quite a personal kind of space. So you really get to know everybody else really well and make friends for a lifetime. And it's a space that most people, unfortunately, in society don't tend to have, where they can kind of trust and open up and be vulnerable and safe and be respected for that. So that's the kind of the space that I'm trying to create at my retreats. So the main thing, like we have all this fun and we eat amazing fruit and all that, but at the end of the day, it's about an all immersion experience into what an ideal life could look like and how we can be our best selves. Hopefully learning enough things while you're there so that you can take it home and keep doing it at home.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for offering that to people. It's really beautiful work and it's much appreciated. And so again, Grant, thank you so much for sharing your story and your experience and what you have to offer. Definitely check out his website, rawausieathlete.com, and follow him on Instagram. And before we sign off, do you have any lasting words of wisdom or something else you'd like to share?
Life is short, so start making the right choices now. We all know what's right in our hearts. Don't let fear hold you back. There's so many things that are there's so many things that we fear just because we don't understand them. Like if I told you something personal about myself, maybe I might fear that how you would respond to that. Maybe you won't understand. Maybe you would judge me in some way. I think so I might not share whatever that thing would be. Don't let fears of the unknown hold you back. Just live. Don't live recklessly, but take calculated risks to maximize the value in life, and really take some time for yourself each day, whether it's meditation time, whether it's yoga, whether it's running. For me, running is like meditation for me. But you need some personal time where you don't have an agenda each day, where you just are. You're just being, you're just existing in that space, whatever it is. That's hopefully free from distractions and agendas. So your body can just you can just process whatever's within you, and whatever comes up, and please never run from those things, because in my experience, if your body is, if something is coming up for you, you should listen to it and acknowledge it and accept it, in order to have a beautiful life. Otherwise, they kind of get shackled to your ankles and you end up carrying them around with you for the rest of your life. Yeah. Path to freedom. Pursue it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Again, I got so much out of this, and I hope everyone who's listening did as well. Again, make sure to follow Grant at Raw Aussie Athlete. Please follow me at Healthy Dynamic Life, and I'm sure we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. So thank you so much, Grant. It's been such a pleasure and truly an honor to have this opportunity to interview you today.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I really enjoyed the interview, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Yay, thank you. And I'm grateful to everyone who decided to listen today. Have a happy, healthy, and dynamic day.